All right, we got 5:30. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. 2.1, approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, 3.1, approval of the minutes. You've had them and had a chance to read over them.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving right on down. 4.1, Reading Horizons Renewal, K-12 Curriculum, Director Amanda Atwell. And Peters, sorry, Amanda Peters, I forgot. We got a new name there. Congratulations, Amanda. And team, sorry. Board, you got attachments.
Yeah.
Okay, good evening. I'm Amanda Atwell Peters, K-12 Curriculum Director, and tonight I have with me Miss Denise Owens, who's our Early Literacy Specialist, Blair Phillips, who's an instructional coach at Northeast, and Mr. O, who's the Assistant Principal at Eastern. Sorry, I'm talking too fast, I almost forgot. I'm coming to you tonight on behalf of our principals who are asking for a one-year renewal of Reading Horizons. Reading Horizons is a foundational reading program that is aligned to the science of reading. And renewing this program will allow our schools to continue using this curriculum for instruction and intervention. It teaches phonemic awareness, which aids in spelling and writing, phonics for decoding for reading, fluency, which builds automaticity in reading and writing, and it uses decodable text and vocabulary that leads to increased reading comprehension. There are two parts of it: Discovery, which is used in K-3, which is used for core instruction, whole group and small group. It includes a phonics screener and a diagnostic assessment, and it targets skill gaps for supplemental and intensive interventions. Elevate is the second part of Reading Horizons, and that is used in grades 4-12 for students who have skill gaps and or in our EC classrooms. North Carolina uses the M-Class DIBELS assessment, as you know, to measure reading assessment and student performance and reading skills in the early grade levels. And Reading Horizons instruction incorporates the same measures that are assessed on the M-Class assessment, and the effectiveness of the program can be seen in our district's M-Class data. Ms. Owens will discuss the M-Class data with you now.
So you should have received the one-pager which shows our district data. So at the very top, it's the 24-25 school year, and it shows where students were performing at the beginning of the year coming in, which was 55% meeting expectations, and now middle of the year we have 64% meeting those expectations. As a comparison, I did put in last year's graph, which does show that we came in higher at the beginning of the year because we have those foundational skills. We're continuing to move in the right direction. And now, middle of the year, again, we have 64%, which has increased because last year at this time, it was 59%. If you actually look at historical data back to 21-22, when we had M-Class and we were just getting started using Reading Horizons, that percentage at the middle of the year was 52%. So we've moved from 52% at MOY to 64%. Last year at the end of the year, we had 73% of our students meeting or exceeding expectations in all of our foundational skills, and the track we're on, we should exceed that by the end of this year. So our goal is to get over that 75% or higher by the end of the year. What I will say is with the revamped Reading Horizons, it has really enabled our teachers to utilize this with success with our students who are not meeting expectations in small group. They have added in extra layers and toolkits in Reading Horizons, which is very easy for teachers to follow. A lot of times teachers get bogged down in the what to teach and the how to teach, but this takes away the what part because it provides it for them. And so teachers can really focus on the how and like knowing exactly what students need to be retaught or how that can be utilized. And I would say this year is the first year that we've had so many EC teachers and middle school teachers reach out to want extra training with Elevate, which says a lot because they realize some of these students in middle school have skill gaps or need advanced word study. So I've actually been able to provide 2 Elevate trainings this year for EC teachers and middle school teachers. And then I've also been able to train some instructional assistants in the program who've enabled our teachers to have even smaller groups to get that success that we're looking for. So I'm going to turn it over to Blair, who's going to share a little bit about Reading Horizons at Northeast.
Yeah, so we are, excuse me, serve K-8, our K-3, K-5 uses it. K-3 is for their core instruction every day. That's how they start their morning. K-2, it follows Haggerty. And then third grade with, it's a built-in phonics component at the very beginning for those kids that need that. As Denise mentioned, with the online component and the revamping of how it is now, being more tech-based, students are able to do a daily skill check. So teachers are able to see live action as the results follow in of what students need reteaching in small groups for that day. Or maybe if it's a class that needs to be retaught the whole lesson the very next day, it's super easy to follow. It also encompasses all things kind of like Amanda discussed, your decoding, your encoding. It's very systematic and explicit, so it's following a good sequential order for those students. We use it in our EC classrooms as well, just to kind of spiral back. It starts each day with a daily review, so it's constantly reviewing everything that they've done overall. Students are just like with their speaking, they're dictating, they're writing every day. Teachers are just able to kind of make it their own, you know, with their instruction.
All right, so I will talk about how we use it at Eastern Elementary. Again, we're a K-1 school, so at Eastern it allows us to identify the knowledge gaps that students are having, especially with the foundational skills. Not only does it allow us to identify the gaps of learning, but it also allows us to make learning in the area of reading engaging with all of the kinesthetic cues that go along with Reading Horizons. One of the ways that once we collect the data here at Eastern is it allows teachers to know what lessons their students are not mastering, and it allows them to reteach those lessons. It also allows the teacher and the instructional assistant within the classroom to create their small groups for remediation time within the classroom or enrichment for those students that are ready to be enriched. Another way that we use it is our core academic team uses the data to identify which students need a Tier 2 intervention or a Tier 3 intervention. At Eastern, our EC, both of our EC resource classes are also using the Reading Horizons program. So school-wide, we're using Reading Horizons in K-1. Another one is we are lucky enough to use some of our Title I funding to hire tutors, and they're also using components of Reading Horizons to re-instruct in areas that students are needing help with. And one of the things that our teachers truly enjoy or really like about the program is the at-home practice that parents are able to deliver as well. There's lessons that are scripted that parents are able to deliver. They're not to the length that the teacher would deliver in the classroom, but it's a snippet and it's easier for parents to be able to deliver that instruction or reinforce the instruction. So with that being said, I will be giving you a handout of one of these so that you're able to see, not at this scale, but something you can carry in your hand. And I put the graph for our M-Class proficiency for the last 2 years, and then this year. I know Ms. Owens had touched on where we were MOI last year and where we were EOI last year. Well, at Eastern last year, at the middle of the year, we were at 58%. Currently, this school year, we are at 68% proficient. Our SIT goal is to get our students to 80% proficiency by the end of the year. Last year, when we look at our data, we had 76% for 2 years consecutively. So looking at the projection of 68% proficiency now, we are pretty sure that we will reach that 80% proficiency by the end of the year.
Well, I can tell you, Reading Horizons has done wonders in our program since it's been initiated. So, Board, have y'all got any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
I'm just price. I used to be known for worrying about that, but now all the prices are high. How does this compare to what we've been paying?
It's the same, almost the same as it was last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious because everything else has gone up so much
Yeah,
across
I
the board.
believe it was actually, when Reading Horizons quotes us, they quote by site, and I believe the price is exactly the same as it was last year.
Perfect.
And I noticed on the invoice, had great presentation. I noticed on the invoice that tax was added in. Are we tax exempt For schools?
No, ma'am, we are not tax exempt. We pay sales taxes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just had a comment. I'm glad you went over Reading Horizon Elevate. I always had a conversation with Ms. Walker earlier about how you tested EC students and standardized testing, if that was figured into the state testing. So Ms. Walker was trying to explain that to me. Can you talk a little bit about your testing and the standardized testing that is included
As
with EC students?
Mr. Olivera said, I was telling him how you don't have EOG, so it's very different. But you still do benchmarks, and
Yeah.
I'll let you explain it to him.
So do you want the explanation as far as the M-Class of what the lower grades are using to measure, or did you want to talk about the Elevate and its correlation with EOGs?
The latter.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we've noticed is a lot of our students previously were not performing well on EOGs, which appears, it always comes across like it's a comprehension issue, which is very complex. But what happened when we started breaking down areas of difficulty, they were having gaps in foundational skills.
Okay.
So it could have been due to COVID, it could have been due to absences, it could have just been due to struggling to learn the concepts. But along the way, there were skill gaps, and because it is a layered, systematic program, they might have gotten a piece here, missed a middle piece, got a piece here, this wasn't understood, and they continued to fall back. And so what we realized was it wasn't really a comprehension issue that was masking the true issue, which were foundational skills, which was also true of some of our exceptional children. They were missing some of those skills, especially students with dyslexia needing something that's very systematic, explicit, direct, following that scope and sequence. And so we've been able to use Elevate beyond third grade to fill in those skill gaps. And so that's what we feel like is attributing to some of the improvements in the reading comprehension, which shows up on EOG.
Okay, so it's been beneficial then, right, Reading Horizons?
Yes.
And I've been visiting some schools and seen the demonstrations, and it really sounds like a good program to me.
All right.
Well, we've seen how it works in the K through 3. We saw that last year. I'd be curious to see how it works in the Elevate section on up. But it seems to be a positive thing all the way around.
Yeah.
If
It
there
is,
aren't
and
any
with
other questions,
Elevate, because it is used for students to fill in skill gaps, it might not be done with a whole class, but
Right.
it's done in a small group or either with the EC student.
Kind of as needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the,
It's not, it's a non-action.
Oh,
but
it's
you can-
right.
But you can move it to a non-action.
Yeah, I
Is there a
second that.
need?
All right, so
I
we just
second
moved to
that.
non-act,
you want to make a motion to
I'll
move it
make
to
a motion to
action?
move that to an action item so that we can vote on, because I know it's due, in April?
April 20th.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
go
let's
ahead
go
and
And
do
I'll
that.
second that, and I'll make a motion.
All right, let's vote on that one. All in
Okay.
favor of that, moving
Oh,
it to an
that's
action item,
right.
say aye.
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 All opposed? All right.
Now I'd like to make a motion that we approve the quote as presented.
Second.
And I'll second that.
All right, we got a seconds and everything. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great presentation. Thank y'all, team.
Thank you.
I hope the cold weather's
Mr.
done.
Oh, I'll take a, no.
She wants a poster.
Want to hang it from the
Thank
back of my car. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go. How are you, Matt? Doing great, sir.
Great, brother. Great job.
Wow.
We're going to move on down to 4.2, presentations of schools designated as low performing but awesome. The first one is Miss Alicia Vosberg to the podium, and she will be, and I don't see hers up there.
What, you want my other people to come with me or ask
If
them
they
to join?
want.
Sure.
Oh, come on, guys.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I'm probably gonna hear about
It's on the
that.
bottom board. She's got P.S. Jones.
I will. Okay.
Yeah,
Are
bring
we
your whole
ready?
team.
Thank you for having us tonight.
Sarah, come on up.
Yeah, come on up.
For those of you who don't know Sarah, she's also an administrative intern.
Does everybody know everybody?
You got
You can
everybody?
introduce again.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
My name's Dr. Alexis McHugh. I serve as an assistant principal at P.S. Jones Middle School.
Kevin McElroy also serves as one of the assistant principals. I'm a principal fellow intern.
Sarah Hall, I teach seventh grade math at P.S. Jones, I'm an innovative intern.
And?
Oh, Alicia Oscar.
Like we didn't
Principal at
need,
P.S. Jones Middle School.
We didn't know who
And
you
I
were.
am so happy to have my team with me.
we didn't know who you were, Alicia.
It's always good to have moral support.
Well, the funny joke is, Dr. Parker looked at me and he said, "You need 4 chairs." And I was like, "Well, I know I can wait, Dr. Parker, but I don't think I'm gonna have to sit in more than 1 chair." And then I said, "Oh, can they come?" And Mr. McRoy was like, "We're not going up there."
Your name's on the
So this makes me happy.
Y'all have a, it's P.S. Jones on the bottom.
Are we ready?
Yep.
So you can click. And that's just telling you what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about BOY and MOY data. BOY means beginning of the year, and MOY means middle of the year. We're gonna talk about the 2 programs we use, Lexia Power Up, which is the first year we've used it, and then IXL, which we moved from iReady to IXL. Okay, so this is Lexia Power Up, and it is a reading program because if you remember, when I gave you my last data, and I didn't bring that, but I can probably pull it up, it's on my computer. I told you how our children were below in reading 2 grade levels or more, correct? Which I do want to piggyback on what Ms. Peters and the crew said. Those children didn't have reading horizons. So they had those gaps, and they also had COVID. So that's the reason for those gaps. We had to do something. And middle school teachers were not trained to teach reading. I wish all teachers, K-12, were trained like elementary school teachers. I think we would have just a whole better system. But they weren't trained for small groups. They weren't trained to teach reading. And we can't train them to do that now. So we are doing Power Up. And if you don't believe this is like what is this? What would you say, Mr. McRoy? Am I crazy about it? I'm crazy. During the snow day, or ice day, I can't remember, I sent an email to parents, like, remind them that they're out, but they have internet, and I'm checking those goals. And when you tell them that, they're probably gonna make a face. And I had parents like, yep, they made a face. They made a face. But there's 3 zones. There's word study, grammar, and comprehension, which you see up there. And you'll see the start zone, and you'll see the current zone. And you can see we've made progress. So I'm gonna let you just look at that. I think you might have it on your screen. And then you ask me what questions you would like to about that. Like, I don't know how to really explain it to you. Word study is the phonics piece. Grammar is what you would think it would be, grammar, and then comprehension is comprehension. And there's 3 areas. They took a placement test. And there's foundational, which is a kindergarten through 2nd grade level. And then there's intermediate, which is 3rd through 5th. And then there's advanced, which is 6th through 8th, which is where they should be. A lot of them are foundational, but have moved. I'm so proud of them. And I think some of them hit foundational because they didn't take it serious when they took it. Does that make sense? Like, you got middle schoolers, they don't really want to do it. And I don't think they realize that you're going to have to work yourself out of that hole. But they're working themselves out of that hole. And if you remember, the lower grades, K-5, they have Lexia. Power Up is from the same company, but it is made for middle school students. So,
Can you explain for those that may be in the audience or new, because we don't have a key,
right.
when we look at the gray and the medium blue and the dark blue and the purple at the very tip top?
So at the start zone, we had 57%, and this is all school. This is 6A. We had 57%, which the number y'all can see, and I don't know if I can see what my reader is.
372.
372. That's how many. That's where they placed, and in the that level. And then middle of the year or current zone. So we pulled this before he needed it. We pulled this because this data updates every day. It's very cool. And if you ever want to come sit down with me, I am happy. We just need to schedule it because we're real busy there. We are happy to sit down with you and show you this because I check it every day. And on Friday mornings, I get up really early so I can see who spends time with me in the library and they miss their elective class. They get to come spend with me, and that is not the funnest time. And then the blue level at current, there was, 274? And so that would be foundational. That's how many were foundational. And then that's how many were intermediate, and then you see how many we had that were advanced.
So the purple, when you're already at 100%.
They're done.
Is that above grade level?
Yeah, they're done. We're planning a bowling trip right now for the ones that have completed it, and we hadn't even told them yet, but they are like every day. "Look at
Well,
my
they
power
know
up."
now if they watch this.
Right. Well, we're gonna tell them tomorrow
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, you can see the progress.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're talking about 177.
So Lexia Power Up, when I was at Chalkawinnie Primary, is when we brought Lexia to Beaufort County Schools, because it aligned perfectly with M-Class, that portion of it, and the language. I mean, it was just perfect marriage. And it works.
Do you have teacher
Absolutely
buy-in
works.
for all of this, do you think?
So let's brag on them. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I would have thought so.
And I think it's another reason, and please comment, Sarah, but our ELA teachers do it 15 minutes to 20 minutes a day. And in 6th and 7th grade, our social studies and science teachers do it. And I'm going to tell you why, because they're not tested. And we all know you're going to want those test scores up. So you can't do science and you can't do social studies or math if you can't read, right? There you go. But our math teachers get real funny, so we don't mess with them too much about that. But they've done great. Everybody's going to a training. We have metric meetings, and we had a training January 6th that all of them came to right here over there in this room, and they learned the reports. I mean, they're doing phenomenal. We had a training at our last mandatory day. That's Friday. Great. Every time we learn something new, they're asking good questions. They're learning the reports. It breaks it down. There's a scope and sequence that breaks it down. So if I have a kiddo that's on a intermediate level, say 12, I can go right to scope and sequence and see what it is they're missing or having trouble with, or all 3 zones. It's a great program. When I retire, I might have to. I want to work for them.
And to add, Ms. Walker, our teachers, we really let them kind of get their feet wet the
Yes.
first semester. A new program can kind of scare anybody, but as they started working through it, they were asking really good questions.
And they say they love it.
Yeah, they do.
Positive comments.
They do. And so that January 6th meeting, I feel like, really lit a fire under everybody who was working on it, because we all got on the same page about what the goals were, what we expected of students. And we were working towards that, but we were trying to give teachers some autonomy and letting them get their feet wet with it so they knew exactly what the program entailed. So now everybody's really bought in, and it's really, you don't go a day without telling a kid, hey, let me check your power up. Hey, have you
Okay,
done
so
it?
last Friday, when I had 8th grade, y'all, it was like being in purgatory, and I'm not lying. There were so many of them, and I said, I need help. And I was not in the mood. I mean, it was just like, they don't want to do it. So I made a deal with them, because our ELA teachers, they teach grammar. And so I said, if you will just close your zones each week for word study and comprehension, I'll leave you alone. I will leave you alone. Well, this week, man, they're closing 3 zones, and they're coming up. Look, I closed 3 zones. I said, I guess you don't want to spend time with me on Friday. It's really worth the time to come see us and let us show you the data or in the reports that you can get.
Donald's got a question.
I was just going to comment, Ms. Fosberg. So you're optimistic that, I know Dr. Cheeseman was giving a presentation at the commissioner's retreat, and he mentioned 3 schools that were coming out of low performing. So you're optimistic then with the scores and what we've seen that you're definitely coming out?
I'm glad you asked that. So, I mean, last year our goal was to grow 3 to 4 points. We grew 7. I was shocked, okay? And I do not want to count my chickens before they hatch. We all heard that saying. I haven't had any board members come to my school. And I would love for you to come and spend some time.
Okay. We would come.
And because middle school children, they're different. Like, you shake your head, but they're different. And I mean, I was elementary for so long, and I didn't know when I came if I was really gonna like them. But I absolutely love them. And it's about the relationships.
Yes.
But we put up with a lot, and we act. I mean, we should have gotten Oscars last Sunday night. I'm not kidding. Like, they think I'm absolutely insane. But I have to be to get them to do things. And
Well,
I hope that they will come and do what they need to do. But they might not. You don't know where they're going to be. I have a lot of kids that don't stay at home at night. They couch surf.
Wow.
I have a lot of kids that don't come to school because they're keeping their siblings. I mean, I've just got stories and stories and stories, don't we? So, I'm optimistic, yes. We pray about it. We have prayer oil and all the things. And we're working hard. And I feel like they care, but we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And, science is part of that's a tested subject. And I know I'm not here to talk about that because we're doing data, but, I mean, that's another thing that I'm, on a hill for, is science. Sarah, tell them.
5 emails a day about science.
Snow day, I worked for 3 ice days on science. I could be a science teacher right now.
Wow.
I mean, but I'm doing just like at Eastern when we used to put the sight word cards around their lanyard. We're putting science words around their lanyard. We're gonna tell them.
I substituted for 7 years in middle school, so I sympathize. I know where you're coming from.
And they're so much different now.
Yeah, they are. And you're doing a
Gosh.
good job. You're doing a good job there.
Thank you. All right.
I
Any
want to
other
brag
questions?
on you real quick. I came
Yeah, we're
to, they had, for Black History Month, they had students up here, 10 or 12, and they were a different
They were great.
historical black historian from United States history. But anyway, I had an education, a couple of them I didn't know, but what really intrigued me, well, first of all, I really enjoyed it, but what really intrigued me is that some of them were really costumed up. Some were not, because the person they represented didn't wear any kind of uniform. But there was a young lady that was just, I mean, she wasn't looking. They had little Chromebooks, whatever, with some information on it. She wasn't looking at her. She knew it all up here. She was just going through it and talking to everybody. And the young girl, who was great, next to her kept reading. And while I was standing there talking to her, the girl who knew everything leaned over and she said, "You need to be a little more professional. You need to know your stuff."
We're trying, y'all.
And I loved it because she took very seriously what she was doing.
yeah.
And that's unusual sometimes for middle school, but that was a great event.
We have
So,
really great kids.
Yeah.
We do. If you'll go to the next slide, this is still Lexia Power Up. Lexia Power Up, it goes either way. We know what we're talking about. This just shows you that in Power Up, they earn certificates. Well, we don't have any money, and so we can't really print all these certificates because of paper and toner and all that kind of stuff. But we make sure that we display these on the board and we reward, we acknowledge this. The skill builders, that's just extra, something you can give them to make it stronger. That shows you the number we've had. But what's really cool is the lessons. So when I'm doing a lesson and I have, 4 times that I don't get it right, that I'm struggling with it, then it pauses and I get a lesson and the teachers know to do that and to dip in and it's on the report. Does that make sense? And this is just a usage through January. Every time we have a meeting with our person, I love it. Okay, moving on. I know we're taking up way too much time. The next slide is Power Up as well. As you can tell, I love it. Okay, so you got these 2 horizontal graphs, comprehension, word study, grammar. That's just the zones, and that's just showing you again in a different way where they place and currently where they are. The light blue is foundational, the medium blue is intermediate, and then, as you can figure, advanced is the last blue. Any questions about that?
Good. Keep running
Okay.
moving.
So, the next program that we use is IXL. And this one's a little harder to compare the data, because when you take the diagnostic on the iExcel, you take a diagnostic. But once you do that, it's not a diagnostic anymore, it's just a snippet. So we have growth, but when you look at, move to the next one, I don't like this slide, I'm a visual person. I don't really like pies either, but this is how iExcel gives you the reading data. They do it in a pie chart. They're coming out soon with the horizontal graph. Math has the horizontal already, but this is the pie chart that just shows you there's 359 students that are far below grade level. It breaks it up. You've got it. I don't need to read that to you. And you can tell I'm not as in love with it as I am Lexia. But these are skills that are assigned. Does that make sense? So like, you don't want to assign more than 2 to 3 skills a week because it's too much. That's what the people tell us to assign. And you don't want them to get 100%. You want them to get to 80%. Because if they got to 100%, then, I mean, they should be teaching everybody, is what they told us, correct? So, you can keep going. That's just the MOL. It shows you, which is middle of the year, or reading on iExcel where our students are. Any questions about that? Okay, you can keep going. That's the same pie graph, but that's for MOY. See how, I don't like how you can't compare those like you can horizontal. Keep going. All right, this is where we can celebrate, and I can break it down for you. So this is reading. From BOY to MOY, our students, whole school, grew over 17,000 points. The average growth per student was 29 points. So they're moving, yes. So I'm going to say we're going to, and also, we are very close, you're right, we're 49, and what is it to be a C?
You need a 54 and a half.
Yeah, we're 54 and a half,
55.
yeah.
Getting there.
So, yeah. Oh, we're getting there, yeah, but, I mean, you know,
Keep it up, keep it up.
if I had a magic wand, you know, but I don't. I tend to, but I don't. Okay, let's go to math. Okay, so this is math. Isn't that a better graph? So this just shows you that out of the 660, 621 took it. Why? Because they were out. We have a lot of attendance issues, y'all. A lot of attendance issues. So if we could get more social workers, that would be great. But this breaks it down to above grade level, on, below, and far. And then if you go to the next one, that's your MOY. Go to the next one because it compares them. Yes.
Sounds like we need to work on math, right?
We need to work on everything.
Well, math,
Okay. Well, like I said, it's very hard to compare this because that is a whole diagnostic compared to a snippet.
Yeah.
So I think you have to remember this is one data point. Like your EVI scores, that's one data point. You have multiple data points, but I've already overdone my 5 to 7 minutes. I'm sorry, y'all. But, I mean, really, we could sit down and there's so much data to pull from. And children do better on some assessments. You were talking about standardized testing. Yeah, EC kids have to take a standardized test at 2nd grade level, at an 8th grade level if they're in 8th grade. That's not fair.
Yeah.
That's just not right. You can keep going. And then in math, though, we grew over 39,000 points.
Correct. Right.
You know, so and that's an average of 65 points per kid. So, I mean, we're moving, we're working hard. There's lots of things that are out of our control that, you know, we just can't control. So we have a lot of love, we have big hearts, and we do a lot of relationships, and we spend a lot of money on food for children. Any other questions?
I would imagine, excuse me, that a lot of the things that you can't control are, and this would be a lot of these far below grade level probably, are challenging home situations
Very.
that you're dealing with.
Very challenging. It's sad.
Yeah,
It is sad. I mean, it will rip your heart out.
I know.
I had a little story. I had a student today that I probably should have sent home or something, and I did not, because I know he comes to school for meals, and he is an amazing kid, and manners like you wouldn't believe. He messed up. He made a poor choice.
Yeah.
And he's a great kid, and I knew what was gonna happen. In fact, I put him in ISS, and I didn't call his mama,
Understand.
because I knew what was gonna happen.
I was an
And I
eighth grade
told
teacher
him.
1 year.
I said, blank, you're doing my heart just like this. He said, what does that mean? I said, I love you, and you're just, I said, and if this happens again, that's when I'm gonna start thinking differently. So, ma'am, it will never happen again, I'm sorry, so, you gotta know your kids.
Yeah.
Gotta know your kids. Thank you for your passion. Thank you
Yeah.
all for, and all your
Thank
whole
you.
team at PS Jones. I
Good
really do
job,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank y'all for watching.
You're-
Keep
you're-
it up.
Your
Keep it
optimism is
up.
obvious.
Thank you.
Keep it going.
Thank you.
Next up, Miss Suzanne Brantley from JCT.
Yep.
You'll
Good
do
evening, Miss
just-
Brantley.
She just ignored you, didn't she? Yeah, so, all right, you can click to the next one. So this is our second grade BOY to MOY M-class data. You can see it's overall second grade. You can see a decrease in our students that were well below benchmark, the red students there. You can see an increase in below benchmark, which is the yellow. And then you can also see a decrease in the number of students at benchmark, which is our green color, and an increase in our above benchmark students. So you can see that through the use of Reading Horizons and all the other core instruction our teachers provide, our second grade students are moving. If you'll go to the next slide. And this is one that I just pulled because to me this is very telling of what's happening in our classrooms at John Cotton Halo. So the blue bar is the beginning of year average, and you see JCT there. The letters along the bottom represent each second grade teacher. And if you look at the red line, you can kind of see it goes down a little bit. That's our average trend line for growth. And so even, for example, teacher A was 328.8. Her students grew to 406.7. So you can see the growth within that classroom. So what we do with this at TALO is we have our middle of the year data meetings where we look at teacher A and teacher B in particular and say, okay, what are you doing to help your students grow this much? How can we help our other classrooms grow that much? But even if you look at teacher I at the beginning of the year, the students were, you can see the overall average there was lower, but then look at the growth that has occurred in teacher I's classroom. So you can see that our students are growing in second grade based on M-class data. All right. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask if anybody had any questions.
You're good.
Okay, all right. So then here's our third grade M-class data overall. Again, you can see this didn't move quite as much as we want to overall from BOY to MOY. But let's look at the next slide. This is a little more telling to me. Here you can see the growth from classroom to classroom. So even when you look at teacher D, at the beginning of the year, the average was 330, and they're at 395. So you can really see what's happening in those classrooms. The growth is occurring overall in our classrooms. Any questions about this? Okay. Good. All right. So in third grade, we started using iReady Reading, but not until the end of October. And you can look at this graph and see the faded outline, the bottom line there is beginning of the year. And you can see that we had 44% of our third graders that were well below grade level, which means they're 2 or more grade levels below. And at MOY, we were at 26%. So we almost cut that in half, which is fantastic. We're moving those students, but if you look at our green areas, we really need to target our on-benchmark students a little bit more than probably what we're doing, which we have made adjustments after our middle of the year data meeting where we're differentiating our core a little bit more for those students to provide them what they need as well as our lower students. Okay? Right? Click. All right. Third grade, because we're a lone tested grade, that's the only grade that's tested at our school, we do not have EVOS projections, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. However, iReady does provide some projections based on their iReady data. We have learned that students roughly need to be about a 537 composite score by the end of the year to score a level 3 on end of grade test. So based on the data from our students from middle of the year, we're projected to be 36% proficient. Last year, we were 35% in reading at the end of the year. So if you look at the level 2 where there's 105 students, we have kids, we have about 30 kids within that range that are within a couple of points of hitting that magic number of 537. And not to, I'm going to use Alicia's words, not to count my chickens before they're hatched, but if we can move those kids, then we'll be at least 45% proficient in reading, and that's what we're hoping for. And we're doing that through our after-school program and our Power Zone times. We're really targeting those kids. Okay? All right, let's move to math. Math blew me away, y'all. Thanks to the hard work from Eastern Elementary and the foundation they laid for our students. Our second grade students, we had 45% of our kids that were 2 or more grade levels below, and at MOI they were 17%. So you can see our teachers have done a fantastic job with moving those students. And on the other end of that, we only had 5% that were on grade level for second grade. It doesn't mean they weren't ready for second grade, it just means only 5% of our students were already there. And we've moved that to 16% or above. Any questions about that? Right, third grade is the same. We had, at BOY, we had 46% of our students 2 or more grade levels below. To MOY, we're at 25%, those little red areas there. And if you look at our green, we have gone to 30% from 4%. So we're doing a great job there as well. And this one makes me really, really happy. When you look at our iReady projections for here, we're projected to be 57% proficient in math, and we were 46% proficient last year. We were a 52 at the end of the year, and we are hoping and praying every single day for that 54.5, so we will be out of low performing. So, and then my last slide, what are we doing? I always ask the question to our teachers, so why weigh the hog if we aren't going to feed it? Because sometimes you can get data rich, right? You can look at all this, but unless we're going to do something with it, it doesn't matter. So these are just some things that we do to help move this data. And we do have data meetings. We had to use our last year's data room as a classroom this year, so we've had to get creative when we do a digital data wall so that teachers have access to it all the time. But again, I would love to have you guys come to John Cotton Taylor and visit us and sit down and talk more about this if you are interested in doing so. Any questions?
Anybody got any questions?
I'm so impressed, not surprised, but impressed, because I know how hard everyone out there is working, and I hear about it a lot more now.
I
But
bet you do.
But with that said, is there any one thing we as a board, and I should have asked Alicia this and her posse, is there any one question or not just support as in us saying what we're saying here tonight, but is there any one thing that we could do that we're not doing that would assist your teachers, your staff, to get these students to take all this in and regurgitate it back out in the correct way? I hear a lot of not from Jennifer, from other schools. I hear a lot where, you know, retention seems to be a huge problem at some ages. I don't know where it starts getting better, but I know what you're doing helps Miss Swinson's school, and what she's doing will help P.S. Jones, and what Eastern, you've already said, has done a great job, you know, in sending you very prepared students. But is there anything the board could do differently?
I wouldn't say differently. I think one thing that just stands out, I think 99% of our educators, whether they're at a low-performing school or a high-performing school, they get up every day to give 110%. And you guys thanking them and acknowledging them for their hard work, it goes a long way. Words of affirmation go a long way. I know we don't always have the monetary things that we would like to be able to provide with them, but if you guys could stop by and say, oh my gosh, y'all are doing an amazing job, we really appreciate that. I think that would go a long way with our staff and in our area, so.
And that doesn't cost a thing.
It
Nope.
doesn't cost a thing. I'm saving you money too, so there we go.
Thank you, Ms. Brantley. Thank you for the hard work.
Great.
So much.
Next one up, John Small with Ms. Swinson.
I have some friends.
Ms. Swinson
that-
and team.
Yes. They were coming.
Welcome.
I didn't know they were coming, and they didn't know they were coming up here.
Well, it's good to have us great support staff.
Yes, absolutely. I'll let everybody introduce themselves real quick before we start.
I'm Emma Willis. I'm the assistant principal at John Small.
I'm Melissa Tripp. I'm the ELA and science coach at John Small. I apologize, we had Spirit Week this week.
There is nothing wrong with your
There's
sweatshirt.
nothing wrong with it, I just apologize for not being dressed up.
I'm Jessica Hyatt. I'm the math instructional coach.
I'm Morgan Howell.
Good to see all of you. All right, Ms. Swinson, you got it.
Hi. We can go one more slide. Okay. So, being a 4-5 school, we have some 4th grade students that are 3-4 transitional students. And what that means is they come to 4th grade having not met a pathway in 3rd grade reading. So we had 19 students come to us this year, which is much different than the year before where we had 51. So thank you, Ms. Brantley. And I don't have to go through all the pieces of this information other than to share that of the 19, 3 have met since the beginning of the year, and that label is now removed from them. And then some of the others who were red to begin with have moved and are now yellow or green or making the progress that they need to make to hopefully have the label removed, but they're all making progress. The 4th grade teachers do interventions and assessments and things to help them make the necessary growth that they need to make. We can go to the next one. And this is where we get into our iReady data. We actually just had data meetings this week with each teacher in the building and reviewed every single student in our school. You can't see that necessarily on here, but I can talk through that a little bit in one of the slides coming. But this is our reading data, and it shows, if you look at the graph, it's a little bit misleading. It looks like it was high and it's going down, but the areas that the middle of the year has gone down is what we want to see. That's showing you that we've closed the gap in some of our areas where students were 1 or more grade levels below. It is less than it was to begin with. So we're headed in the right direction. So the graph is a little bit misleading because it looks like we're going down instead of up, but the areas that are going down is what you want to see. So they're making on average 88% progress towards their annual typical growth. We had good discussions, as I said, this week and talked through every kid. A lot of kids have already met their annual typical growth, and we have some that have exceeded that. So we're headed in the right direction. It breaks it down in the information on that slide too, if you want the specifics, but we are improving. with most of our groups diminishing that bigger grade level gaps. If you look at the next slide, this is our fourth grade. It shows how the fourth graders came to John Small at the beginning of the year, took their test, and then it shows us after the middle of the year, their projected proficiency. If they didn't grow moving forward from this point on, we would be at 33% proficient, which does not sound good. However, we ended the year last year at 35.04%, and this is without them making their annual growth or their stretch growth. So again, it looks like we will exceed what we did last school year with our proficiency. So that's encouraging as well.
Yes.
The next one, I think we skipped, either I'm out of order, that's math. Well, I have fifth grade as well.
Yeah, we got fifth grade.
We have
Yeah,
it.
okay, it's just, okay, that's no problem. This is the same type of graph from the fourth grade one. It shows you that if we didn't grow anymore, as of right now, they would be 27% proficient. Again, that doesn't sound great, but we ended the year at 32.9. So again, it's encouraging because most of them may not have made their annual growth yet, and we anticipate they will. So that's encouraging for us as well. Now we're into math. There it is. Is the math, yeah. Well,
Will you go back one slide?
I'm out of order or somehow.
There we
Yeah.
go.
This is the same slide that can look misleading with the math iReady data. Our mid or above grade level students increased by 8% since the beginning of the year. Early on grade level increased by 12%, and then 1 grade level and 2 grade levels, you can see the 7 and 6. Again, the percentages look negative, but that's positive because it shows that we're closing those gaps with the being more than 1 grade level below. And then it breaks it down for fourth grade, and it shows you the same as I mentioned in our reading. After the middle of the year, the projected proficiency, if we didn't have any additional growth at this point, would be, from this point moving forward, rather, would be 38%. We ended the year last year with 37.5, so we're already ahead. And we anticipate them to continue to make their annual growth or exceed it, so we should be higher than that by the end of the school year. And then fifth grade, same type of graph. After the middle of the year, the projected proficiency, if we didn't have any additional growth, would be 38%. We did end the year last year at 44.68, but again, we anticipate getting there with their annual growth or exceeding it. I mentioned a minute ago that we had data meetings this week with every teacher, and every teacher discussed every student that they taught. And we discussed we looked at multiple different data points and programs that we used and had the teachers talk through, are they making growth based on all the data points that we have. From those meetings, in reading, fourth grade, 60% of our students are progressing and making growth. In fifth grade reading, 71%. Math, fourth grade, 67%. And in fifth grade, 66%. So that's encouraging with the data points that we have. It was eye-opening, I think, for our teachers because we looked at the whole child for every student that they teach. So that was, it's the first time we kind of did it that way, and I think that they gained a lot from it too, because they were able to look at the students that maybe weren't making the growth they thought, or weren't making enough growth or what have you, or going in the wrong direction. And so now they can put together a plan on what they can do to work with those specific kids or target those kids. The last slide is historical information. It shows you our performance grade on the left and then our historical grade growth data on the right. And I show this to say that I think it's easy to look at John Small as low performing or to see our report card grade, but this is my second full year there, and since I've been there, we have improved the growth each year with some of the highest growth over the last 10 years. So we are moving in the right direction. We are still a low-performing school, but there's lots of very good things that are going on. And we just became the Battle of the Books.
Yes, I
Yeah.
saw
champions
that.
We'll take that one too, but,
Got some reading comprehension going on.
that's right. We got a good little
That's
reading
right.
team, but good things are happening. We're moving in the right direction. So,
Great job. Donald?
I want to thank you for the extra explanations that made this, that you can understand it better. You were very descriptive in your explaining. Thank you for that.
no problem.
And I'll-
Thank you.
I want to make a statement. Ms. Booth and I had the pleasure of touring fifth grade a couple weeks ago, and we'll come back and do fourth grade. But I was very impressed with how engaged the students are. I don't know what the teacher might have said to them before we got there, but doesn't matter. They were very engaged, which was very impressive. And I encourage board members, not just John Small, but all of our schools, we can do a better job of visiting and seeing what's going on in the classroom before we make any kind of decision. We should know what's going on. Like Mr. Shreve said, I appreciate the way you broke this down for us. The other thing is, you are the only elementary school, like Taylor's the only elementary school in Beaufort County where you only have 2 grade levels to collaborate with.
Yeah.
Not that you can't collaborate with John Cotton Taylor, but they're not down the hallway. So it requires emails, texts, phone calls, which you can't leave 4th and 5th graders alone to do that. So, and I should have said this to Suzanne, so I understand you're in a unique situation. Suzanne's we're gonna fix, but yours is not gonna be fixed. And if any of y'all research, and I know you look at all this, Dr. Parker and Amanda, look at this, across the nation, there is a struggle with 4th and 5th grades. Whether they are in a K-8 school, or in your case, you are it. You're the 4th and 5th grade school, that's it. But I've been doing a lot of research on reasons why that is, why they can be performing at this level. We've had that in our county. They're performing at this level. They go to the 4th grade and they go from 70 to 85% to 50 and 55%. And this is the same student, the same student. And it's not because our teachers are not qualified and highly valued. So what I was reading was that there really is there's something that clicks on and off in 4th and 5th graders that's a little harder to explain. Some are maturing faster, some are still acting like 2nd graders. And maybe one explanation from a psychologist is, especially if you're an only child, you might be very smart, but you're also very immature because you're treated as a 4th grader like you're still a baby at home, so they don't know how to do anything for themselves. There was a long list of reasons, but what I thought was interesting was that it is across the country. This is not just special to Beaufort County. It's across the country. And I wish you were part of a K-8 school, but that's not going to change, so we have to count on you to do the heavy lifting. But I appreciate it, I really do, and I will be back. Ms. Booth and I will be back, won't we?
We welcome you all. You're welcome anytime. Come see us.
Can I say something? So we, like Ms. Brinkley and Ms. Fosbury, we all have stories of our kids. It's really, really hard to work in education right now. We, obviously our data is going up and we want to keep that, but we're also really intentional about building relationships with our kids too. We built a safe person document at our school this year where we surveyed every single student and set them up with a safe person. If they don't have a safe person in the building, then we need to find someone, whether that be their teacher, whether that be a teacher from last year, an encore teacher, like anyone in the building who can be a safe person. We share them with someone, so that way we make sure that the kids are coming to school every single day to have someone that they know that they can come talk to if they need to.
We thank you.
We thank you. And I truly believe in relationships. Relationships matter.
I work with my husband, and there's a lot of days I don't want to work with him either. I can understand it.
Yep. Thank you all. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, Dr. Horton with Snowden. Good evening, Dr. Horton. How are you? I'm great. How are you? Doing good. Welcome.
Okay. Okay, so what you're looking at right here is our MOY, our BOY and MOY reading M-class data. And we had, as you can see, at the beginning of the year, we had, well, of course, blue is above grade level. We had 32%, and during the MOY, we had 30%. So we went down. However, we did have some students that were in the blue to leave our school. But what we did once we saw our MOY data, we met, K5 met, and for 3-5, we looked at having different interventions. So for our interventions, what we did was we have 4 groups. We have our teachers, EC teacher, our instructional coach, as well as our TA. And our EC teacher, she's working on the lower level, the phonics, and also our 3rd grade teacher. But what we did, we noticed some 4th graders that needed assistance in phonics too. So we have a 3rd, 4th grade combo that are receiving phonics for that grade. We are looking at we tighten up our progress monitoring for K2 so that we can actually catch the gaps or like the missed skills ahead of time. So we're really being intentional about what we are doing. We had teachers train in iReady and Elevate. They took the training with Miss Owens so that we could make sure that our TAs and our EC teacher that did not have the training, because they pull groups as well. So we made sure that they had the training. And right here is our iReady data. We started off for our BOY, we had 24% that was either on grade level or mid-grade level at the beginning of the year, and now we're at 35% with that. For our, and that's reading. We had 64% that was either 2 or 3 or more grade levels below, but now when we did MOY, it's actually down to 30%. Now for our math, if you look at the beginning of the year, it was 6% that was above mid-grade level or 2 grade levels above, and now at MOY we were at 16%. And if you look at the 2 or 3 or more grade levels below or 2 grade levels below, at BOY we were at 37%, and now we're down to 31%. All of our classrooms in K5, they have a data wall that shows like all of their data. And as we complete a data point, the students actually get to go over and move whether they were red or green. And what we noticed in 3rd grade, with 3rd grade, they actually want to see the data. So the teacher has like not only the data points in the classroom, she has the actual number. And when it comes to Lexia and Power Up, we have all of that data in class. So right now what we know, if we have no additional growth, we're at 24%. It will that's our projected proficiency for math. But if we have typical growth, and we already have a large amount of our students that have met stretch growth, we'll be at 43% in math. And for reading, if no additional growth, we'll be at 34%. And if we meet at least typical growth, we'll be at 41%. What we've also done is we've asked parents and teachers and students that our students are required to complete 2 reading lessons per week, and 3 iReady math lessons per week. We've asked parents to read to their children, or allow their children to read to them 15 minutes a night, and to please practice their multiplication facts. So we're trying, and we're putting it out there to parents to help us get on board with us. For the month of February, we had a parent-teacher-student conference with every last family at Snowden.
Good job.
So that's what we've done.
Anybody got any questions?
What would you say your biggest hurdle is, Dr. Horton?
Probably parent involvement and just students doing their homework. We've asked, last Friday, February was Career CTE Month. And so we talked about careers, and we asked students, what do they want to be when they grow up? A lot of students had no idea. So what I did, I sent a paper home with questions for parents to ask their child about, just a career choice. And I had them to give me the shirt size, as well as what the child really wanted to do when he or she graduates or grow up. Knowing that, that decision may change, but I have 3 teachers that do the screen printing. So we purchased T-shirts, and we bought every student in the school a shirt that with whatever their future career goal. We had future doctors, future nurses, future child care providers, future teachers. So every child had a T-shirt. So we can try to get them to thinking that way. And I've asked teachers to periodically pull up one of the careers, so the students will know, hey, this is what I need if I'm going to go that route. Our middle school ELA teacher, she had all of the middle school classes to take, like, the surveys of what would I want to be, or what am I good at, and then she compared that to what their shirt said, and then just trying to get them some pointers. Because my hope is that planting a seed early into a career, or what is it that I want to do, will, the Bible says some plant, some water, but he give the increase. So that's my thing. I told them that we're going to plant and we're going to water, and we'll wait until God give the increase.
There you go.
You're gonna get an increase.
All right, any other questions?
Sure. Dr. Horton, I know that a very high percentage of your staff serve as after-school tutors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how many, it might be close to 100%, how many students participate in the after-school tutoring?
Well, we're just getting ready to start. I have one teacher that she tutors like the entire year because the parent asked. And now what we looked at last week was we looked at all of our students who are projected 30 to 70% to make be proficient on the EOG. And we have all of those students. I want to say it's about 75 students that are staying. And for our students that are below 30%, what we decided to do, most of our students, K-5, they have an extra encore. They have an encore that they meet twice a week. So what we're doing with that second encore, we're pulling those low students, and we're providing intervention then as well.
How many people in the community help with the tutoring program? Any
We don't
help
have
there?
anybody in the community. What we're using our teachers and our TAs that want to. And I am writing that proposal as we speak to, so we can use our Title I funds for that.
Yeah, I've noticed that your teachers work very hard during hours and after hours.
Yes, yes.
And we in the community need to help a little more, I think.
Yes, they are.
And that's
They
me, too.
want to, and they want the community to come in. Like on Thursday, we have a day where anybody can come in. But honestly, this year, besides our PTO that comes through, we probably only had one parent to come through. So we're really, really like grabbing at straws, like how can we get the families involved? We have Class Dojo, and we can actually see what families actually get on Class Dojo and read, and honestly, it's less than 50% of our families. So we're trying hard to meet the parents where they are, but yeah, we're working on it.
Gotta have two sides that want to meet.
Yes.
Good, Dr. Horton.
Yes.
In your community, do you, so it looks like from hearing from you that the community is really not involved. Is that true?
Well, I would say the parents, like we have a lot of just adults that may not have parents at school they come through or they'll ask, a lot of the churches will ask, what do we need? But we really want to see our parents. We've asked some of our teachers, they have contacted parents and say, hey, you can come in class and you can learn right alongside your child. So we try to open up every door of opportunity for our students to come in.
So
our parents, I'm sorry.
How was your parent-teachers meeting?
They went really well from what I could see. All of our students that were at risk, and I call at-risk students, students that are 2 or more grade levels below, they are at risk for retention. So either myself or Mr. Wade had to sit in on those meetings. The parents said that they would take responsibility and make sure that their students are getting what they need. So we'll actually see, we have 14 days left in this 9 weeks, so we should actually see an improvement if the parents do what they say. We should see our retention rate go down because the students know that I am serious. If you are 2 or more grade levels below, I told them today, I saw an article where a child is suing their mom and the school system because the child can't read, and I told them that they will not sue any teachers at Snowden because they cannot read.
We love you.
There you go.
Well, thank you for your hard work, Dr. Horton.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Horton.
Thank you, Dr. Horton. Don't sue me. Moving on down the list, 4.3 Washington High School baseball project. You got a attachment, and Athletic Director, Mr. Will Tyson, to the stage. Here he comes. Good evening, Will. How are you?
Doing good.
All right, you got an attachment. Go. You got the floor.
Yep. Has he got it? Or do y'all have it?
We have it.
Okay.
We got it.
Just coming to you guys today, we have got a project for the baseball field that is going to be, and the big thing that I think you guys will like is it's going to be fully funded by us, the baseball program. And it will not come out of any capital funding or school funding. And we just want to get your approval to go and do a major update to the baseball field and update the backstop, which will be a brick wall with a net system, which will help from a safety standpoint, a visual standpoint, and it'll make it look more like a true college or professional style park instead of a chain link fence, which is dangerous for collisions, running into, it cuts up baseballs. On average, we spend a little over $1,500 a year on baseballs, and for every time that ball hits the fence, that ball gets cut. And the cut ball's got to be thrown out, so this will help us save money from baseballs, but also from a visual and safety standpoint, it will be a little bit more aesthetical for what we're trying to do out there. And just coming to you guys today to just try to get approval for the construction of it. We have, for the most part, we've almost got it fully funded with the last fundraiser that the Diamond Club did. It's going to cost us anywhere, depending on labor and cost, between $30,000 to $40,000, and we've got almost $40,000 already raised.
Have you taken care of the batting cages?
Yes.
I couldn't think. I was pointing to you because you know what I was talking about.
Yep, those are taken care of. They look brand new.
Good.
Other than we have, from where years ago, a truck driver who was going back there to fix some stuff behind the baseball and softball field, he did clip a pole, so we do have one pole that's bent, but other than that, it's working perfectly fine.
Is this going to be completed after baseball
Yes,
season?
ma'am. It would be during the summer season, when everything's school, everybody's done with school, all sports are done, and that way we'd have minimal impact to anything that's going on out there.
This is just an FYI because it's self-funded and funded by the school and the Diamond Club. And if anybody's got any questions, just ask him. But other than that, we don't need a vote, and thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, thank you.
Tremendous amount of work.
If you've been around any ball fields, and I've spent a day or two out at ball fields now and then.
You're not living.
They don't want to hear it's not that important. If you ever spend any time at a ball field, I said, I think I've spent a day or two here and there. This looks really great when you go to the parks that have this.
Yep.
And plus having a kid out there that does a lot of catching, I like the idea of having this up there.
Well, from a visual standpoint, if you've never been to a ballpark
Yep.
that has a net system, it's so much better for the fan aspect of it. You can see so
Yeah.
much better.
I do want to throw one thing out if I can right now.
Okay.
I know you're covering this, and I know we're coming into our capital season, and I know your principal's here too, so just to put a bug in your ear, you got some fencing out around these fields that I'd say should have been replaced or done something to many, many years ago.
Yes.
Can you have a discussion and see about what gets on your capital list before we actually come to look or do it ourselves?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know it's been on in the past, discussed in the past, but never made it. I think we're past time to do something to those fields out there. It's not, and I'm not speaking just about baseball. They have issues over the tennis courts.
Yep, tennis courts
Oh, my
are-
Lord, they are.
tennis courts have holes all in it.
If
The poles
you
are
go
about
see
ready
what
to
he's
fall
talking
down.
about, those things are dangerous. So it might be something y'all want to just look at. Not saying you have to, Mr. Principal there, but I'm just saying, I've seen some things out there that need a lot of attention.
And that's next week, too.
Is it next week, Don? Oh, thank you for reminding me about that. So
Next
I'm
week.
glad you came tonight.
Yeah, we will have that discussion.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Will. Thank you for all you're able to
Thank
do.
you.
We
Appreciate
Good
appreciate
luck on
it.
your season,
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Will.
Good job.
even though you lost to Northside.
4.4, Washington Elementary School update. Dr.
Wait till
Cheeseman?
tomorrow night.
Okay.
This locker is pretty funny. All right, so as an update for the new school, on February 24th, and the board has already been made aware, the Board of Education received their certificate of review from the State Board of Education, specifically the Office of School Facilities and School Planning section. And so in fact, the certificate of review is now here, which means that the final plans for the actual work site have been approved. And that was submitted back in September, so it did take some time, but it's in, you're good, and you can continue moving on. And State Board of Education Chair Eric Davis, along with State Superintendent Mo Green, signed that, so you're in a good spot. Also, a few days back, employees from Eastern Elementary School and John Cotton Taylor paid a visit to the brick and roof sample place in Raleigh with Mr. Jimmy Height and his team. And so on behalf of the board, our employees picked out, I think, 3 or 4 different samples of brick colors and roof colors, just after getting general guidance of what you liked in the past and what you'd like to see in the future. And so in short, Mr. Height is going to create, with WIMCO, half-wall samples, and he will then host a meeting sometime next week or the week after for you to walk through, go out to the site, take a look at those half-wall samples so you can see what they look like in the sunlight with the different samples of roofing. And if you love what you see and start making some choices, then he can stay on timeline and keep going. If you don't like anything of what you see, then we can scrap that and then go back again and look at it again. But your educators from Eastern Elementary School and John Cotton Taylor did a really nice job of working on your behalf. Suzanne Brantley was there, Mr. Oliveris was there as well, and I think it was a really great experience. So I'll reach out to the board when Mr. Height has those assembled through WIMCO and let you know dates and times that you can go to the site and take a look at it.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, sir.
I was actually, put this thing on. I was actually out at Eastern Elementary today inside the building for outstanding Black History program, just outstanding. I don't know everybody that was in charge, but the work that was done was phenomenal. The kids, I mean, that was one of the most orderly programs I've been to. That all consist of really little kids.
Yeah.
But great job. But while there, also, if you haven't had a chance to ride by there, you might just want to do that because it's beginning to look like something's really happening out there.
Yes. Yes, it is. And to that point, you're still on time. You still anticipate opening in August of 2026. And WIMCO's doing a fantastic job. So, and you'll see later on in the action for their first distribution of monies. But any questions? Thank you very much.
4.5, budget timeline, request update. You got another?
Yeah, just to give everybody, especially in the audience and the public, an update based on the timeline. So I've given you the timeline back again, March 18th, which is your next meeting on a Tuesday. Ms. Potts and I, your Chief Finance Officer, will provide a tentative budget request that you then get to strike out, cross out, add to, delete, whatever you like to do. So we're not too far away from that, but in the intermediate, I know you have, some questions around what do budgets look like and what the state, local, and federal government projections might be. But just keeping everyone updated, March 18th, that board meeting specifically is when you'll dive into the format and what you'd like to present.
Anybody got any questions? All right. Running on down, 5.1, distribution request of Washington Elementary School, Dr. Cheeseman, and Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Potts.
And so as you know, North Carolina Education Lottery requires you to approve any expenditures, and then Ms. Potts sends this document to the county commissioners through their finance officer and the county manager for their approval. In this circumstance, you're looking at WIMCO's first payment, which is right around 5% of the work. And so they're looking at 1.2 million and some change, as you may see. If you're looking specifically for what they've completed, you'll have the back form and just go to column G, and you can enjoy all the way down of what they've done between grading the land and mobilization and some of the demoing that they've had to do out there. But in short, Mr. Height and his team have certified that the work has been done appropriately. So you'll see the AIA document that is notarized, citing the fact that they're asking for 1.227542.50 for their first payment. And the document that you're approving cites that were the project cost as of date 2/27. And Ms. Potts did a really great job of filling this out, but also the finance officer for the county added just a little bit of structure for us. And so any questions can go to Ms. Potts, but we're asking you to approve this as presented for WIMCO's first payment of 1.2 and some change.
Anybody got any questions?
I do. I noticed on the invoice, the dates, and then the dates that was introduced to the public. I'm trying to look for it right now.
What page are you on so we can catch up?
One of the copies, and I did have it saved, but my computer went out.
On the first attachment.
Which attachment?
So, the date of the design on the contract was 7/8/23. And that is when, everything was started. Then there was a bid date of 4/28/23. Was that ever open to the public?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We did a
and-
whole RFP, and they did bid date meetings.
Big date meetings to hold
over
on.
in the other facility.
Okay, and then,
They also had an opening, a
on
bid
February
opening.
7th, 2024 is when it was introduced to the public.
What document are you on?
Well, I just created a timeline that I asked for when I first sat. So before we paid out, because there was also an interview on WNCT where, Dr. Cheeseman, you made a comment of working with your partners, and I'm just wondering who your partners were.
I'm trying to figure
I
out
don't
which
understand
document,
what you're talking
I'm trying to figure out which document you're on this attachment.
She's not. She's
I
on her
created
own.
a timeline
She created a
based off
timeline
of
on a sheet of
the,
paper.
right, but based off the invoice that you're asking to be paid.
So what is your specific question, Ms. Davis?
My specific question is this the way the timeline worked?
Yes,
Okay, and is there a real needs assessment
yes,
that was created?
yes.
And where is that?
I'd be
I don't
happy-
mean to annoy you.
You're
I'm-
not.
Okay. And-
I'm
and
just
where-
answering your
Where
questions.
is that needs assessment?
So they did two feasibility studies specifically at the end of the end of July. One for JCT, one for Eastern. Those were both done July of last year, submitted to the state through Height Associates, already presented to the board and approved to submit.
Right, but with the county, with the board, who got to do the needs assessment in our county for the school?
So you have a 5-year facility study that has to be done every 5 years.
Right.
That assessment is completed. This Board of Education did that several years back through a third-party company to do it for them.
What year?
And so that was, Dr. Bradley was here, 2021 or 2022?
That was after COVID.
Yeah, maybe 2022, no, 2021, because Doc left in 2022.
And now we're building a school in 2025.
And so
So
that is-
that should be coming back around shortly, right? That
Yes.
assessment?
5 years later from the time.
Okay.
Yes. So that was submitted to the county manager for the county commissioner's review, as required by law.
Okay, and then the design was introduced to the school board when?
The design of this particular building?
Mhm.
Well, let's
I
see,
don't have
it's
the
on the
time.
wall over there, so it was, let's see. State Superintendent Catherine Truitt attended a meeting here February 7th to present the check.
Yeah, right.
The Board of Education walked through an RFP process after that. The design was submitted to the state September of 2024. So the design was first started working with the board back in the spring of '24 as we started progress monitoring meetings on Thursdays at 12 noon. So the design was worked through, I'd say, from March all the way until August? Yeah.
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 And then, the whole plan of the school started in 2021 at a conference?
No, we weren't involved in that.
I'm sorry?
No,
No.
We were not involved in that.
The school board was not involved in that?
none of us.
Okay.
All right, if there's no further questions, I'm asking you to approve this as
Yeah, I need
presented.
I need an motion to approve this.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, Ms. Posh. You can go ahead and send it to Anita tomorrow.
All right, I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Thank you,
Board.
Ms. Potts.
And the commissioners will get a copy of what we saw, right?
Yes.
Yes, it goes. They have to
No, I
sign it.
meant of the breakdown. So
Yes,
if they
ma'am.
have,
Exactly what you see, they get.
perfect.
So Ms. Walker, Ms. Anita works with me on making these disbursement forms, and so she actually keeps a record. She actually gets it last. So I bring it to the board, you guys sign it first.
Right.
And then I submit it to her for Mr. Waters to sign. And she keeps, and she submits the final documentation to Mr. Hinton at DPI. So Anita has records of everything for the county
Okay,
commissioners.
I know they meet Monday night, and I was just thinking, because they've had some real specific questions, this may help them to see the breakdown.
Yes,
better.
ma'am. I understand.
You ain't lit.
You said there's been questions, and I'm sure.
You're, just leave it on.
Just so we won't have to revisit this over and over and over. When we make these requests for payments, this is what you're saying, so Carol will know too. If we hear questions coming out of the commissioners that they're unaware of what's going on or what we're paying on this, be very mindful that this document has a line on the bottom where the chairman of the county commissioners has to sign it. So in the future, if there's any questions coming from the other board in the county that we're doing things and they don't know what we're paying, false, untrue, they have to sign off of this before a penny's paid. Because I
And
know
I
there's
think
already
it's-
been questions about
And
that.
I know.
There's already been questions about that. I didn't respond publicly through some false article I read. But there's no way this building can be built, this building can be paid if the county commissioners don't say okay. So
And I
when they
think
come
this
on,
is-
so when anybody comes on that's a commissioner and says that we're moving forward without him, just know either one of two things. They're not telling the truth, or they don't know what the heck's going on.
And I think this is very, very self-explanatory when you see the breakdown, and I think it would answer a lot of questions.
Yes, ma'am. When I get a request from Mr. Height, I always review it, prepare the document, submit it to Ms. Ratcliffe, and she reviews it. She puts it on her board agenda, we put it on our board agenda, so both boards vote for the approval of a disbursement on these funds.
And before it's paid,
Thank you for your
this
hard
gentleman has to
Yes.
sign it.
Yes, sir.
And their commissioner, chairman, whoever,
Mr.
I know who it
Waters.
is right now.
Yes.
But whoever's going to be during the process of this
They'll
building
still have
has to sign off on it.
Yes, sir.
Well,
You're
and-
correct in that.
And then Mr. Height has to verify that the cost that he's asking for at the time, I forget what you call that. but
Right,
he-
this-
He verifies that.
That's why
done.
we're paying him
Hold on.
as our
And
architect.
normally, when you, like
Right.
if it's
They're right,
just
you're
us
right.
buying a home, a bank would have to be required for that.
Exactly.
He authorizes that in this case.
And you heard Dr. Cheeseman just mention that that was done this time around. And so you're right, Don.
Yeah.
But that's a step that has to be completed before we get to the step we're at tonight. And
That's
once
right.
you say yay or nay tonight, then he signs off, then it goes to them and they sign off.
Yes, sir.
So there's nobody in this process can say, I'm not aware of what the county and the Board of Education is spending. If so, they must be asleep, not paying attention.
And I want to thank all of y'all that did go pick
Are here.
out options. Obviously, you didn't go with purple and gold, but it's all right.
All right,
Thank
let's
you.
move on. We got 5.2, policy 6140. Mark Doon, you got an attachment.
Yes, sir. This policy was previously up for second reading, but it required that our SHAC committee review it before the board voted on it. They have, and we're just bringing it back now for approval. It was part of the School Board Association giant list of policies that was approved at the last meeting.
Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Anybody got any more questions for Dr. Mike?
Motion to approve.
All right.
No, I've got a question.
All right.
So this is, these changes were presented by the School Health Advisory Council.
Yes, sir.
Who on this board is on that council?
I don't know that anyone on the school board is on the SHAC committee.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because according to the board policy, one is supposed to be.
I'm not sure where the invitation fell through the gaps.
Well, I would like
Nobody ever had anybody
but-
on.
I would like a printout of who is on the committee.
Sure, I'd be glad to get you one.
And we need to rectify that, I think, too, to be in line with our own board policy.
Are you
And,
volunteering?
and that person is supposed to be reporting to us also.
Well, we have periodic updates from Dr. Young and Cindy Edwards, but they're not, obviously not board members. But I'll be glad to get you the list of SHAC members.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Aikman, with respect, would you like to be a part of it?
Say again?
Would you like to be a part of it?
I'm game.
Excellent.
All right, got a motion and a
Donna made a motion to,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
second.
Yeah, second, I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 5.3, distribution request capital, Dr. Cheeseman.
All right, so this has zero to do with your new school. North Carolina Public School Building and Capital Funds has a repair and renovation section to it that comes from NC Lottery money specifically to be able to use for your school buildings, essentially that oversees anywhere you could possibly hold class. And so this is a budget payment request going back through the lottery funds for capital items that you have already approved on your capital list for this school year. And if you notice right in the middle of the paper, short description, we're talking about repair school intercom systems, of which is at Chocowee Middle School right now. And there may be others attached to this as well. But to the point, Ben's here to answer any of your questions about the intercom systems, but we're asking to use repair and renovation lottery funds. So this does not come out of your local budget nor your capital local budget. And just so people have knowledge, the current balance of that is around $1.3, $1.4 million. So you have plenty of funds to cover this.
There is no match from the county. This is 100% funded, correct?
100% funded through repair and renovation lottery fund, and if you remember, In your capital list, we actually earmarked these items as R&R lottery funds.
Yep.
And so we're just coming
And
to
not a
it.
day too soon. Move
Yep.
approval.
Yes.
Thank you.
Got a
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Terry.
I would say, hold
You're gonna have
on.
to
I
do-
move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statutes 143, 318, 11A1 to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel files under General Statutes 115C, 321.
Got a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we're closed.
TW. TW. Did you ever get Gary on that?
He's been on the whole time.
Oh, he has?
Until we go back.
Yeah, every now